Hi, I'm CF3 Loyal, still staying at home every other Saturday. Well, some of us have to, whilst the other part of our amazing support are over in Gibraltar, watching the game from the pavements and singing in full voice. You love to see it. Bring you the latest quintessential Rangers vlog, European edition. And for the second year in a row, Rangers kicked off our Europa League campaign in a place called Gibraltar. And tonight's game finished Lincoln Red Imps 0, Rangers 5. Don't see it. But tonight saw all three Scottish clubs progress to the next qualifying round. And you might be wondering, why do I care? Well, I'll tell you why I care. Because as Rangers travel to Netherlands to play Willem II next week, we then have a domestic game in the league against Motherwell at Fir Park, who now need to travel to Israel. That's why I care. Another team in action tonight for Scottish football was Aberdeen, who won 2-0 against Viking over in Norway, and you may have noticed that Ross McCrory opened the scoring. I look forward to the campaign starting once again on Twitter that we should not have sold Ross McCrory. But back to our game, and from what we've seen of it on Premier Sports. And Steven Gerrard, quite rightly, in his post-match press conference said that we did not get out of first gear, and I completely agree with it, but they were so poor. It's hard to see how they could have beat anyone in Scottish football. But he did have one or two chances. Alan McGregor had to make a good save, which was created by George Edmondson ducking out the way of a football. But James Tavernier stepped up with a moment of magic with a sensational free kick, Steven Gerrard's words, and at that point the game was never in doubt, and it was our captain's 251st appearance for the club, something I failed to mention actually in my previous vlog when he reached the milestone of 250, and you've got to say that for around £250,000, we'll never know exactly what the figure was because it was a joint transfer along with Martin Waghorn from Wigan. That's real value for money and possibly one of our best in recent years. And for James Tavernier, it's 3 goals in 3 games, and once again our fullbacks were crucial to our good play and the victory. James Tavernier, as I said, that sensational free kick, and Borna Barisic afterwards with an assist for a Connor Goldson header to make it 2-0. Excellent performance again from our fullbacks. But let's talk about our team. I always talk about our starting 11, and Steven Gerrard rightly rested some of our key players, which meant that we could see Alan McGregor, George Edmondson, Scott Arfield, Greg Stewart and Cedric Itten start the game. Probably fair to say that none of the fringe players really impressed. In fact, if you look in social media tonight, 2 players in particular are getting it pretty tight. Firstly, Cedric Itten. Cedric Itten's 23 years old. He's only played like 3 games for the club after travelling over from Switzerland. It's far too early to write Cedric Itten off. One of my mates said, Stephen Kerr said on Twitter tonight, that hopefully Cedric Itten gets his goal sooner rather than later, so it doesn't become a thing that he needs to get a goal for the club. Far too early to write him off. Let's continue to get behind a young player who's been signed to develop at the club and give him a bit of freedom to actually do so without putting that added pressure onto him. Having said that, I'm now going to talk about Greg Stewart. Now, anyone that watched my last video will know that I said that Greg Stewart should step in, or certainly wanted Greg Stewart to step in to the team when Brandon Barker picked up his injury. But he disappointed me. He didn't take his chance. He was really rusty, and that's probably natural considering he hasn't played a lot of games. But he was poor, Greg Stewart, and actually it reflects on something I said in some of my earlier vlogs when we were looking at the squad. And it's that Greg Stewart's one of a number of players that are still here who are just not of the right quality required at Rangers. I think if we get any kind of bid for Greg Stewart, we'd take it. but can't see it because he'll probably be on a decent wage in comparison to the clubs in Scottish football that would be bidding for him. But he's only got 12 months left of his contract, so if he is here for the next season, then he'll play some games like that where he's brought in to give players a much needed rest. But who did impress? Well, I've already touched on our fullbacks, and it would be remiss of me to say once again our fullbacks were key to the victory. In addition to that, Connor Goldson is really developing into a real leader on the pitch. It was a real moment for me. It was a George Edmondson ducking out the way of the ball moment, actually, where Connor Goldson, after clearing the ball, just stared right through George Edmondson. And I love to see our players who are not wearing the armband. You don't have to wear the armband to be a captain, be that kind of commanding figure on the pitch. It was actually something I was talking to my brother about tonight, and we were referring to the Graham Souness era, when Graham Souness said that if the team were getting beat at half time, he didn't even have to give a half time team talk because there was so many leaders in that dressing room that would do it for him. So I love to see guys like Connor Goldson really stepping up this season, being more vocal in the team. Someone else I want to mention is Kemar Roofe. I think Kemar Roofe looked really sharp. His movement was first class before he went off injured. And I have to say, personally, I possibly wouldn't have risked Kemar Roofe given the pitch. I didn't know the pitch was that bad. It was so dry. But he did need the much needed game time. Is it a problem? Should we be concerned about Kemar Roofe going off? I don't know. He has had a history of calf problems, something that kept him out for lengthy spells at both Leeds and Anderlecht. But Steven Gerrard post-match said that it was just a little bit of tightness and that Kemar Roofe done the sensible thing, putting his hand up and asking to come off, and hopefully he'll be back for the weekend's game against Hibs. Another player I want to touch on is young Nathan Patterson. Nathan Patterson is a huge prospect. He came on for Kemar Roofe and slotted in at right back, and then made that position his own when James Tavernier went off at half time for Alfredo Morelos. But I thought Nathan Patterson looked excellent. Within the first 5 minutes, he landed 2 crosses onto the head of our attackers in the second half. He could be an excellent replacement for James Tavernier when he does eventually move on, but he could be crucial for both club and country as Scotland continue to lack a real right back and are flirting with championship right backs or left backs at right backs. We won't talk about Scotland. But one of my mates, Costa, actually made a very good point, which is Nathan Patterson's probably really benefiting from the allowance of 5 subs coming onto the pitch. And it's probably one of the few benefits that have came in football through coronavirus. And if it's telling us anything, it could be that a long-term change could be made to allow homegrown players or under-21 players come off the bench in addition to the 3 subs that have been made. I think the game time that he's having had debuts this season both domestically and in Europe, it's certainly doing his development the world of good, and he's looking like a first-team player more and more every time I see him. The last player I want to individually call out is Alfredo Morelos. When Alfredo Morelos plays like he did tonight, he proves that he is our best player and a top asset. I think tonight's performance for Alfredo either elevates him in the shop window and really makes a lot of teams take notice as to just how good he really is, or he plays his way right back into Steven Gerrard's plans. But 2 goals tonight for Alfredo Morelos, and that makes him 1 behind Alan McCoy's MBE's all-time European goal-scoring record for Rangers. And I loved Steven Gerrard's post-match press conference where he made the comments that I think are absolutely bang on, where he said you cannot compare Alfredo Morelos to Alan McCoist because Alan McCoist won trophies at Rangers, which is something that Alfredo Morelos has not done. I think Steven Gerrard has came back from the end of last season with a real winning mentality, and it's sensational to see, and I'm sure we all agree on that. But back to Alfredo Morelos, I'm going to talk about his second goal, and I know that Steven Gerrard said that he loved his first goal. The movement was excellent, but his second goal was a touch of class. There's two things I loved about it. One, the intelligent movement to stay onside, something that I think most Rangers fans have been pretty critical of Alfredo for constantly being offside with his runs, particularly my dad, who'll laugh at this as he's watching. But that was a real intelligent run to stay onside, but it was a finish. You know, Alfredo Morelos normally is the type of striker that puts his head down and lashes it as hard as he possibly can, but that was a really composed finish, and it was an excellent finish as well. His celebrations with Jermaine Defoe, who also grabbed a goal, delighted to see, did not look like a player who was hating life at Rangers, did it? Anyway, what's next for Rangers? Well, it's back to league action on Sunday, the competition that matters. And it's a tough away trip to Easter Road to face an in-form Hibs side. And earlier on I said it was good to see some of our key players rested. Well, I expect to see some of them come back into the starting 11 against Hibs. Those might include John McLaughlin, Philippe Hollander, Stephen Davis, definitely Ryan Kent, and probably Alfredo Morelos. Then, after that, it's back to European action next week with the qualifying round 3 match in Netherlands against Willem II, who themselves are fresh from their own 5-0 victory away from home against our nemesis, Progress Nederkorn, a team that we have failed to score against in 2 attempts away from home. And it will be a tough test. I don't think you need me to tell you that it will be a tough test. But one of the things that will go in our advantage is their league campaign has just kicked off at the weekend, where Willem II were defeated 2-0 away from home to Heerenveen, which means that we should be sharper. Our match sharpness should be clearer when we go on the pitch. I don't know too much about Willem II, but they are a team that finished 6 points behind Feyenoord last season in the Eredivisie, with Feyenoord having a game in hand. We all know the quality of the Dutch league, but we also know that on our day we are a very good side in the Europa League, and we proved that against Feyenoord last season. I know we can do it, and I'll be disappointed if we don't. We certainly welcome the chase. Also, tomorrow is the draw for qualifying round 4 to see who the winners of that match play, and there's some real tough opposition. I think we want to try and get a home draw, something we've not had so far in the Europa League, but we probably want to avoid some of the big names like Spurs and Wolfsburg. Anyway, I'm off tomorrow to enjoy probably one of the last days of sunshine in Scotland. Thanks for watching. I'm CF3 Loyal. Stay safe, stay staunch.